Hello and welcome to Left Coast Live. It is Tuesday, December 17th. I am your host, Dieter McBusiness, joined as always by the one and only Stat Pat, Stateless Patriot. We are California lefties talking to you about national politics, and today we're going to dip our toe into some internet drama because Stat Pat and I are loyal viewers of a handful of channels, and we are disappointed to see their power structure be withered away because of one of the cornerstones of progressive media, TYT, just seems to be going a little bit to the right every day. Just a little bit more to the right every day from Cenk and Anna. And now that we have made it known we are not down with Jimmy Dore, we are also now getting to the point of being anti-TYT, which is really sad because those resources should be getting put to good use. But they're not, Stat Pat. They're not.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of it's just ironic in a way. I don't know what it is. I don't know if they're actually if the gas leak theory is true. I'm not sure if the gas leak theory is true over there at the TYT headquarters or what, because you had Dave Rubin go, you had Jimmy Dore go, you had Jordan Sheridan go. I think the status quo guy was part of TYT at some point. I think even Michael Tracy was at one point a part of TYT. But you keep on having all these people leave and whatnot. And it's like, what could it be? I think it was the money. I really do.
Yeah,
They
sounds like it.
they kept on getting off like big ticket offers and whatnot, and it just never came to fruition. And now it's catching up to Cenk and Anna, and I think it's starting to show that they're sponsored by Polymarket now.
Yeah, the
That
studio
ga-
is, yeah.
that gambling
Yeah, Polymarket, yeah.
political gambling thing is like,
Yeah,
what
it's,
the fuck? And like
I know.
Cenk was saying how, oh well, I didn't know that Peter Thiel was behind Polymarket and whatnot. It's just like, okay, well, you did a deal. You named the studio after it. It's like you're just doing the Tim Pool thing. You're just doing the Dave Rubin thing. Well, how was I supposed to know that the money I was taking from these shady billionaires were actually Russian oligarchs and whatnot? It's just like, maybe that's the goddamn problem, isn't it? It's like, focus, like, look at where your money's coming from. Like, your instinct isn't to ask questions, or it's just like, ooh, big bucks, gimme. It's like, there's just no integrity anymore, and it's especially a shame that it's affecting what's supposed to be like the biggest progressive hub on the internet, and now they're playing footsies with these right wing pundits and whatnot,
Yeah.
and it's just so it's frustrating, and they're not even being totally honest about it at all. They they keep on smearing people who are criticizing them for their takes recently and their
Yeah, they went after Emma
capitulations.
Vigilant recently, which
Yeah.
was a bit was kind of the
Oh
straw
my
that broke the
god.
camel's back
No.
for a
Yeah.
lot of people when they went after Emma, because Emma is just great. She's just great, and
Yes. She
it's
has
really
integrity. She has principles.
yeah. I
It,
mean, I think the godfather of the internet left is Sam Cedar. I don't think it's Cenk Uygur as much as
hell
he
no.
would like it to be.
No. I mean,
And
the thing
it's
is, like,
not Jimmy Dore is some sort of leech that just drags down the cause, but he's got quite the following. So, Jesus
yeah.
Christ, I don't know what we're gonna do to unite all these people, but it's got to happen if the country's gonna survive. Because we got news today that the DNC is trying to act as if they didn't lose all that badly, that it wasn't such a tough loss, and that they ended up getting. But we'll get into that in a second. I
Right.
want to make sure we round the corner on TYT drama, because it
Right.
is really disappointing. It was my introduction into progressive media, and then I
Right.
got into the majority report. I'm happy to say soon after that.
Yes.
Um, and
I
that was,
mean,
and then I got into Kalinsky, and those are my kind of majority report and Kalinsky are my kind of bread and butter progressive media guys. And
Yeah,
I
I
don't even
mean,
really watch Majority Report anymore, like the whole thing. I just watch the clips that they put up
no, of course,
if I see something I like, because they
same
do a
here.
lot. They do a lot of obscure shit.
No, of course,
And
yeah,
good for
yeah,
them. Good for them, because there's no money in that, but the stuff that they do is important. They cover a lot
yeah.
of important stuff that's just like not timely and just not like, it's not provocative, but it's important.
Right. Yeah, I do like what they have all set up and whatnot. Like it's pretty rare. I'll tune into an actual show of theirs, but I mean I love what they do, honestly, and I do like the fact that I think on certain days, maybe even each day, I'll have to like actually look a bit more into it, but they actually take calls. Like they have a
Right.
caller line and whatnot, and it's like it's produced some of their best and most viral clips and whatnot, especially when they get libertarian callers. So they have a
Right.
good people that's working for them, and it's just a damn shame because like for me, and just to touch on Jimmy Dore briefly, like he's completely irrelevant now when it comes to any semblance of the left. Like the only attention that he gets is in the conspiracy nut fucking circles and whatnot, and it's just so.
I'm glad to hear that. I didn't know that. I thought he was more
I
like
mean,
still relevant for progressive, like a lot of Bernie's people, like who are now MAGA,
oh, oh,
basically, right?
I mean, when it comes to like the really the
The anti, the
dumb left,
anti-vax.
like,
It's like the
yeah,
anti-vax guys, like the
the
anti-vax
anti-vax
left.
and like the reactionaries, basically the people who
Right.
are like who hate the Democratic Party, and that's like the only politics that they actually have. That's it. It's just like anti-democrat, period, and they work backwards from that conclusion. It's like I understand being anti-democrat, but it's just like you got to have at least some integrity, some principles, and some morals and whatnot. And if you're following Jimmy Dore all the time, those are at most questionable.
Right.
Uh, when it comes to Cenk Uygur, I've never been the biggest fan of him
He's
or
just not
him.
that bright, man. He's just
I've
not that bright. He
they've
really isn't.
always come across as smug, annoying, and insufferable. They've had good takes here and there, and
I
have
would
had
add
coverage,
the
but
two words that I would add to that are childish and unprofessional.
yes, big time.
They are
Oh, big time.
very unprofessional.
Oh my God, no
They
kidding.
they like when you turn on the camera, you're like, oh, okay, sweet. I'm gonna get some legit news here
No, yeah,
and some anti-corporate, anti-capitalist news,
yeah, and like
and then it turns into this shit slinging fest,
yeah,
and it's become in service of Cenk and Anna's egos. And
bingo.
John Iadarola seems
Mhm.
like a really
He's
talented
good.
guy.
He's
And
good.
it's too bad that we need a benevolent billionaire to come around and buy
Shit.
MSNBC
Hmm.
and put all of us on that damn network, on the new one. I mean, let's just
Right.
do it right. But no, I mean, I think there actually would be a lot of money in that, but no one's got the guts to do it. Um, yeah, TYT is hugely disappointing that they're making these changes. And I guess
Yeah.
the issues that they're kind of turning on are homelessness,
Hmm.
immigration, right,
Yeah.
and crime.
Yes. Yeah.
Those seem
As
to be
well
the
as
big issues.
the
What am I missing? There's got to be more than that, right?
they're starting to dabble in like the anti-trans stuff a little bit. That's one of
Mm.
the things that kind of blew the lid off of this whole thing was how they treated one of their trans workers because I guess they were a communist and uh, this and that. It was just a really messy, dumb thing. But they're not the only disgruntled employee that TYT has had. Hank Thompson is actually a really good person to look to, and he actually released a documentary about the practices of TYT and how many lies Cenk Uygur tells and whatnot.
Wow.
It's just a really filthy place. Honestly, there's so much. It's a toxic environment. They don't pay the people like they're supposed
Right.
to. They're union busters,
Right.
a really big red flag right there,
Right.
and they tried to cover it up and like because like they're put in the position where like they don't want to see as like the kind of uh, entity that needs a union to begin with. It's like it's just a bad look for them,
Right.
so they try to like make that union not even happen. But it's just like practice what you preach, you know,
Right.
and it's just there's just blatant hypocrisy that has been just
And let's be
boiling over
serious.
at
Like,
this
how
point.
talented really is Cenk? Is Cenk Uyghur? Is
Yeah,
it Uyghur? It's Cenk Uyghur, right?
everybody
It
says
says
Uyghur.
Uyghur. Yeah.
Mhm.
So Cenk Uyghur is not the most talented guy I've ever seen. In fact, I would give him like a B minus in fundamental communication skills with respect to communicating on camera. I
Yeah.
think the problem I go back to a lot with these superstars is talent,
Hmm.
coaching.
Yeah.
Okay, because if you actually talk honestly, like off the record with big time actors, the good ones, they're always working with someone.
Yeah.
They're always working with someone. They're always trying to get better. These stale personalities of Jenk and Anna, they're not trying to get better.
No.
They are perfectly fine with the way that they are. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's when you lose the hunger, your performance is going to suffer. And they've lost
Bingo.
the hunger. Now it's all about them.
Yes.
Now they can't handle the heat.
Yeah.
They sure can dish it out though. They sure can dish out the heat, but they can't take it. And I got
Yeah.
to say, this is back to my running theme of we just do it different in the corridor. Can't help but think that a little bit of this is culture of unprofessionalism relates to them being based in LA and being
Big
so
time.
detached from the
Yeah.
intellectual, financial, and political capitals of our country.
Completely agree.
They're not as connected. They're not.
Yeah, yeah, and it's easy to like. It's easy to hate California if you're living in this like largest metropolitan area. I mean, LA is no picnic. A lot of the areas around there, and not to mention, you'll be hard pressed to find like actual lefties who actually like Gavin Newsom and what he's done
Right.
for this state to begin
Right.
with. And so it's just like the issue is TYT is constantly strawmanning the left, and they're going so far as to blame the left for the issues of the Kamala Harris campaign, and they create these like wild arguments that nobody on the left is making. They're just literally just building these strawmen and knocking them over and treating it as if it applies to the broad online left and whatnot. And the right is picking up on that and believing them.
Yeah.
That is one of the biggest issues. That's why this whole thing is so fucking frustrating. That's why I wanted. That's why this whole thing is so fucking frustrating because they're lying about the left. They're smearing them and strawmanning them by making it seem like the left broadly is making arguments that no one is actually making. It's like like crime is fine. Crime is there's it's a fantasy. You're worried too much. Like nobody is saying that, but if Chake and Anna are telling right wingers that and whatnot and broadcasting that on Twitter or whoever they go on, like Ben Shapiro, Glenn Beck, whatever the fuck, the right believes them because
Yeah.
Anna's already come out
Right.
done her whole tap dance of why I left the left and whatnot because she didn't feel respected or any of that fucking bullshit. It's just nonsense. There's no integrity left at that network, and if they can't have it their way, they're just going to try to drag the left down with them. And fortunately, some people are seeing through and they are hemorrhaging subscribers and whatnot. But my God, it's just so pathetic. And I couldn't agree more. I would definitely point to Sam Seder as like a grandfather of the
Hmm.
online left currently because at
Yeah.
least he has integrity and has remained consistent for years and is not in it for the money. Like, and he
No.
even acknowledges that too. It's just like he actually has principles that drive him and his politics forward and whatnot. And he's actually very knowledgeable on just so
Hmm.
many issues and whatnot. And that's why Cenk and Anna, as well as countless other people, are so scared to actually have a one-on-one conversation with him because he would stop them. He would call out their bullshit. He wouldn't tap dance around the issue because, like, if you saw like Cenk talk to Hassan Piker, for example, he, Hassan couldn't nail him down on anything without Cenk having a fucking full-blown meltdown.
Yes.
So like everybody
That's
is
what I mean. He's a
scared of
child.
Sam Seder. Yeah,
No,
it's
people
like
like on the right and people who are politically savvy, they want Jenk to be the face of the left because he's so easy to avoid taking seriously. He
Right.
talks, acts, and conducts himself like a child.
He acts like Donald Trump.
Like, yeah, a little bit. A
Him
little
and
bit,
Anna
yeah.
Conspiracy.
Of
Like
course, of course. Like, Jesus Christ, dude.
it's
You're
like
supposed to, like, no wonder MSNBC didn't fire you just because of your views. They also fired you because you're kind of a hack. You
yeah.
have a hack
Hmm.
shtick, man. You got a shtick that's like, you think that,
Right.
like, someone who talks like Jenk has to earn my intellectual respect. He is not automatically intelligent in the way that Sam Cedar is.
Yes,
Sam
of
Cedar
course.
communicate the way Sam Cedar communicates is revealing
Hmm.
of his studious nature, and
Yeah.
I don't think Jenk does the homework.
No.
I don't think Jenk is grinding on the data and looking, reading through Pew Research and shit like that.
No.
No
No.
way, no way.
Yeah. It all comes down to this. You ready? I was actually going. I totally forgot, but I was going to name the first part of this stream, like the header, the title, and whatnot, grievance politics, because that is a major component of online right wing media, and if you're driven by grievances like Donald Trump is, you can get people like to tune in to engage with you. It's like, oh, who's this person got a bone to pick with? Like, what exactly is itching at this person? And, like, what's irritating them and whatnot? And it can be rather fruitful. And that's basically all TYT has become at this point. Just a whole list of grievances. It doesn't even have to be rooted in reality. It doesn't even have to be honest. But if you could put on a show like they do with bombastic expression and whatnot, that's all it takes. It, it it's just sad. There's no integrity left.
No, the market forces have infiltrated their integrity,
Big time.
and they're selling out, and they're
Yeah.
jealous of the views,
Yep.
and they're trying to differentiate, and there's nowhere to go. So they're reaching kind of around the corner to try to get on board with some topics that's favorable to the right. I
No.
guess
Yeah. It's
it's
like like
but eating
if
your
anyone.
own though is just like dividing the
Yeah.
left, basically saying if we can't lead the way, then we're not going. Then we're going to sabotage coalition
Yeah.
unity.
Yeah.
Like
No.
we're going to sabotage. Jimmy Dore did the same. That's the
Yeah.
big fuck you to them.
Yeah.
If you ever really want to hurt someone from TYT, or really, let's just reduce it down because who knows who's actually running the show? It's really Jenk, right? And it's Jenk and it's Anna, and so if you ever really want to like hurt them and have the opportunity to communicate with them, just be like, you became just another Jimmy Dore. Like you
Yeah.
became just another narcissist who basically said, if I can't lead the sheep, then the sheep get slaughtered.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's ironic because that's like a big issue when it came to Jimmy's schism from the left. It was because Jimmy just did nothing but fucking complain. He just had nothing but grievances. It would always be attacking certain people, people that would dare criticize him or get into to scuffles on Twitter with him and whatnot. If that's what's driving you, what are you even doing? What is the point of going to work? What exactly are you fighting for? You're
Well,
just looking out for yourself at the end.
Jimmy Dore would say, I'm a comedian. I'm not a real political analyst.
Yeah, but not even
And to
Cenk
that I
Jr.
say,
and Anna's Conspiracy have that excuse. They don't.
no, no, they don't. And Jimmy doesn't either because he actually
he
communicates
failed,
in such
yeah.
a way that, well, yeah, there you go. That's actually another point. But I was going to say he does communicate as if you're supposed to take him seriously. And then, yeah, the other side is that the comedic talent really isn't terribly strong with him.
No, of
So
course.
that's all the internet progressive left drama I guess we can do for today. I don't like dabbling in that, but it is tough to see
Yeah.
major players fighting, and you feel like if you could walk into the room, you would be able to work stuff out. But I don't know. I think the TYT egos, because they've been in it for so long, and they were like, we were here first. They have that whole attitude. It's not so different from what we've talked lot about on here of xenophobia. We were here first.
Yeah.
Like that whole attitude. I got mine and screw everybody else. And if I
Yeah.
can't get my way, I'm going to burn the house down.
No.
And
Yeah.
so I think
It's such
if
a
there
shame.
if there's a silver lining, though, I'm thrilled to hear what you have to say about Jimmy Dore being isolated. If Cenk and Anna and TYT in general could go off and be isolated, that's fine. And over the next I'm starting to realize it's probably going to be more like 2 to 8 years, as probably closer to 8 before the progressives really have a chance at the White House.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be Wes Moore. Like the numbers on Gavin are going to deter the establishment. Wes Moore's a good-looking black guy. He's smart, and he's got a great state behind him in Maryland. So I think Wes Moore is the natural choice for 4 years from now. But we'll see. We'll see.
Right.
And in terms of progressive leadership, though, do you know much about what's going on with the steering committee and Pelosi trying to sabotage AOC from becoming chair of the oversight committee? Basically,
weren't they successful in preventing her from taking that seat?
Yeah, it's not complete yet, but they did. Do you want to watch this stuff about? Okay, yeah. Let me get this lined up here, because
isn't Pelosi like out with a sickness or something like that? Like she's like something.
Yeah, but
happened
she's
to her?
still like the de facto leader of the party. It's really disgusting how much power she has. Here we go.
Yeah. We got it.
Shoot. Oh, sorry.
Reporting is that
I thought it was showing. That
okay.
whole time I thought it was showing. Here
No
you go.
worries.
So we
All
are
right.
fortunate to be joined this morning by Congressman Ro Khanna here in the studio. Always great to see you in person,
What was
sir.
that coming in?
Lots
See,
of
sir.
interesting Democratic Party news going on that we wanted to pick your brains on. So, guys, if you could put B4 up on the screen here, we'll start with this. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has been trying to become ranking member on the House Oversight Committee, which is a significant role and one that she seemingly, based on her past work, would be relatively well suited for. Reporting is that Nancy Pelosi decided she would rather have Jerry Connolly, who is relatively aged and also suffering from cancer, in that position.
Yeah, what
Yesterday in
the
the steering
fuck?
committee,
Yeah,
she was
I
able
did hear
to
about
win
this.
that vote. Now, typically, my understanding, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is usually the way the steering committee votes is the way that the whole caucus votes. So this is likely a defeat for AOC. Do you think that she still has a chance to get this position? What do you make of this sort of backroom dealing to block one of the young rising members of Congress for an older, more establishment figure?
Well, I don't agree with that. Right after this, I'm going to vote in the House caucus. I'll be voting for AOC for a couple of reasons. One, she was the vice chair. She's done the work. She comes very well prepared. Two, the whole committee in the minority is
She
about
kicks
getting
ass in
out
that
in the
position.
media and being an effective communicator.
Yeah, that's true.
We don't have that many effective communicators right now.
Yeah.
Wow, that's quite an admission, huh? We don't have that many effective communicators.
No kidding.
Woo! What was that I was saying about coaching?
in Congress in these leadership positions. But she's going to be an underdog. I don't understand, why the Steering and Policy Committee's recommendation has so much weight. And then someone explained it to me. Everyone wants to get on their committees, and the Steering and Policy Committee basically determines what committees you go on.
So if you go against them, you may be screwing yourself for your
yes.
committee position.
And one of the biggest complaints I heard about AOC secondhand was that she had endorsed in primary challenges. God forbid you endorse against an incumbent in our party. And I've said, we should have competition. Just because you're an incumbent doesn't mean that you're guaranteed that seat. But this is where you're seeing that those who are willing to question the system, shake things up, that doesn't go well when you want to try to be in leadership in
I'm glad you brought that up, because there was actually reporting that as part of her attempt to become ranking member of House Oversight, she was willing to agree not to back primary challengers against incumbent Democrats, which I think is, I think it's extraordinary to begin with, because as you point out, it's important to have that Democratic choice. Right. I think it's been part of her brand. Obviously, she came in challenging a long time entrenched Democratic incumbent Joe Crowley. You also came in a Democratic primary challenge. And so I thought it was extraordinary that she was willing to give that up. But I also thought it was extraordinary that she was willing to give that up, and they still were like, not good enough. We still want our guy, Jerry Connolly.
Yeah, I don't think we should give that up. I mean, let's say someone was challenging a member of Congress on the Iraq War. That's how I started. I lost that race. But wouldn't you want to have incumbents challenged if they voted for the Iraq War?
Yes,
so,
of course.
And this is where the lesson for progressives is we're not going to build power just by making compromises. We've got to get more of our folks elected. Now, the fact that she got to 27 is pretty remarkable, but we'll see what happens in the House caucus.
So the reason you're here is in this context of like future of the Democratic Party. What is this all about? So we have a hilarious element here. Can we put, what is it, B1 please up on the screen from The Atlantic? They write, maybe Democrats didn't do so badly sadly, after all, the party's debate about reinventing itself after the election has gotten more complicated. They talk about some of these retcon positions and others. You've been a part of this conversation. So we're curious for your reaction to that and whether is this how your colleagues feel and generally about this theory of change and where things go from here under a second Trump administration. What do you make of an argument like this?
I think we have to make a distinction between could we have won this election by a couple points or can we win back 26 or 28? Of course we can, versus a long-term problem for the Democratic Party. Let me talk about that long-term problem. We've been losing working class votes, white working class votes, African-American working class votes, Latino working class votes. You've gone on Ohio from President Obama carrying it by 5 points to carrying it by 3 points, to us losing it by 8 points, then losing it by 11 points. Anyone looking at the data has to say, okay, even if we can win in 2026 because Trump does something really dumb, this is not what the Democratic Party coalition. And we've got to, in my view, get back to the FDR coalition on economic populism, economic liberalism, whatever you want to call it. I call it a new economic deal, which says we're going to raise Americans' wages. We're going to guarantee people health care when they're really upset that health care is being denied. We're going to bring business leaders, labor leaders all together to industrialize America and left out places and be the party of economic renewal. It seems that we have the elements in our different parts of our party, but we've got to be bold with standing up for these policies.
And how much sway does Ro Khanna really wield in the DNC?
Not that much, honestly.
Not that much.
I mean, which is a shame because
he's right.
He's
right. He's a building block. He'll be he's going to be a great cornerstone for the movement to come. But our leader has yet to reveal himself, in my opinion.
No, I mean, he's a great congressman. He's got he's pretty safe in his seat, to be honest, and he's been really consistent on a lot of issues. He really is one of the best progressive voices in Congress for sure. It's just such a damn shame. It's like. I don't understand the reasoning behind it. Like, if Nancy Pelosi is supposed to be Mama Bear and, a figurehead for, even though she's not, for progressives, for like the up and coming like squad members and whatnot, the progressives, if they're supposed to be in cahoots and whatnot, like, why turn your back on AOC? Why deny her this position? What exactly does she have to gain from it? Like, I just don't understand the logic behind it, unless it's like, someone giving Pelosi money, just like trying to like sway influence and not have AOC in that kind of position where she actually does have a fair amount of power. Because you've seen the viral clips of AOC here and there, like just talking directly to whoever it is, like any CEO or someone in oversight, being pressed for corruption or some sort of marking up of prices of some sort of pharmaceuticals, whatever, there's a handful of it, and she just does brilliantly. She asks the right questions better than like most of the other Democrats in the committee do, and she actually understands the actual issue at hand, and she understands that the American consumer should come first, like period, bar none. And if you're screwing them over, we're going to hold you accountable for it. Like that, it's so frustrating because it's a great position to be in, to be able to like actually relay that to the people that they bring into the committee for these hearings and whatnot. It's so frustrating.
I'm not surprised she's trying to sabotage AOC. AOC
Me
didn't
neither.
kiss the ring.
AOC
didn't kiss the ring. It's that simple.
I mean, but she did though. Like what
exactly? Kind of with the Mama Bear thing.
Sure,
right?
It's like what exactly are we missing? Like what didn't AOC like? How much farther does AOC need to go? What did she do to not earn this key vote? Hopefully she still gets it. But
at the end of the day, she's still kind of a Bernie progressive, and she represents the continuation of that ideology.
Yeah,
and
Nancy Pelosi
doesn't. Nancy Pelosi, I think, would rather see a Republican win than a progressive Democrat come along and win.
No, a lot of Democrats would, unfortunately. Yeah. God damn.
I don't know why. I guess their own pocketbooks.
It's their
obsessed
donors
with capitalism. They think capitalism's the bomb. Like,
yeah,
they think they don't think that like this version of capitalism needs serious change. Like, this is not working, people. It's obvious that it's not working.
When you tell them like this version of capitalism, like it'll just go right over their head. It's just like, this version of capitalism.
Yeah,
Like,
these
what are you
rules that get written by politicians who are influenced by big money political interests.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
give me a
just
break.
goes.
You know, people are like we're a nation of laws. Yeah, who writes the laws? Politicians who are bought by pharmaceutical companies, health insurance providers,
Yeah, the oil
tech
tycoons and
bros,
whatnot. Yeah,
crypto.
yeah.
The
Yes.
Vanguard guys were talking about Jasmine Crockett the other day, and someone in chat, I think, because someone in chat mentioned him, and I was like, I think they were talking about crypto, and I was like, guys, no, do a little digging right now so you can get it live. But she's taking money from crypto.
Right. Yeah, it's. I
So
mean,
even like someone comes along with good talent like Jasmine Crockett, and you're like, oh, you're already taking money from crypto.
right.
Like, what are you
That's
doing?
that's a big thing behind Polymarket, the fucking big old TYT sponsor right now, like
Right.
that we were speaking about earlier, largely a fucking crypto scam and whatnot. Yeah, no. It, it really does come down to who is funded by who. Just know, I think it's 33 people in out of the whole Congress and Senate don't take money from APAC. Only 33. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure it's like those are all like the popular progressive
Out of like
figures and
450
whatnot.
some odd people.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, less than 1%.
Yeah, well, 33 out of like I think it's like 535 if you include both the House and the Senate,
Right.
something like that. But like, fucking disgusting.
Right. Yeah.
I do like Ro Khanna though. Hopefully he could try to run for Senate at some point.
Do we want to do more of that? Because there's more. He talks about money and politics. Let's keep going.
Yeah, let's do that.
To follow up on that, we can put, I believe it's B1B, this New York Times tear sheet up on the screen, which has some of the specific quotes here. This is the New York Times version of the same sentiment. Democrats
Right
argue that
back.
the 2024 election actually had its bright spots. And I'll quote a little bit. They say, to hear some party leaders and their allies talk, Democrats had plenty of November victories to be proud of. Jamie Harrison, chair of the DNC, wrote a memo to party members last week pointing to down-ballot triumphs, declared Democrats beat back global headwinds that could have turned this squeaker into a landslide. Representative Hakeem Jeffries, the House Democratic.
Uh-oh. How'd it pause? Oh no. Yeah, no, Jamie Harrison should not be the head of the DNC anymore. He needs to step down. And what's the name of the guy the guy that Bernie wants? Keith Ellison. I believe that's the guy who needs to replace him. He's a lot more friendlier to progressives. Jamie Harrison's been. It's just been a disaster under him. It's fucking disgusting. I guess a ghost paused the video, but
Oh, sorry about that.
Leader wrote in a statement recently
It's
that
all
his
good.
caucus had, quote, defied political gravity. So when you're in these internal House Democratic caucus meetings, is this the sentiment you're getting? Or is there a sense of we have to do some significant reforms and changes? Is it divided? What does that breakdown look like?
It's not that. I mean, this is PR. I understand, if you're, if you're
Of
course
leading
it is.
and you have
Yeah.
a bad result, you're obviously going to look for the bright spots. But the reality is people know that we've got to have a much stronger economic message, that we've got to channel anger of people. That doesn't mean, okay, let's just invent villains, in a caricature way. It means, why are people upset?
Yeah.
Why are they upset that jobs have gone offshore? Why are they upset?
yeah,
that
it's
corporate
like
greed
it's
and insurance companies
dishonest,
have been running
honestly.
insurance?
Because like the little piece there by Jamie Harrison, it's toxic optimism. It's like the Democrats have no power. We're about to.
I
lose
mean,
them.
get even
Like,
simpler with it, dude. It's just loserdom.
Yeah,
That's what a loser says after they lose. Oh, well, we tried really hard. We got a few wins. You lost.
yeah. There's
It's
bright
like
spots in there. It's like
we lost the Super Bowl 28-25. Well, we still fucking lost.
yeah.
We lost on it. We lost on a missed field goal to force overtime.
Yeah,
So
Jamie,
you know,
Jamie Harrison needs to step the fuck down. I think Keith
he's going
Ellison.
to. He is going
Yeah,
to.
we need Keith Ellison in there. I believe that's his name. The guy that Bernie Sanders has
From
been
Wisconsin.
pushing. Bernie Sanders has been pushing for him since I think 2016.
Well, then it
and,
probably won't be him then.
No, of course, yeah. What fucking
If Bernie Sanders is pushing for him, that's toxic for the DNC.
Right. God, right?
Claims. Why are they upset that billionaires are determining political elections? And speak honestly about it. Like, you can speak honestly about it in a suit. You can speak honestly about it in a hoodie. You can speak honestly about it in eloquent language or cursing. That's not the point. It's not stylistic. It's substantive.
Yeah.
Are you willing to speak truth? about
Bingo!
the condition most people find
So
themselves.
you've talked about PAC. That's one of the reasons you wanted to come on here to talk about not taking PAC money and others. You're trying to project a new vision of what that party could look like. So what is that in your view?
Well, the DNC should make some very basic commitments. No super PAC money in Democratic primaries. If there is a super PAC clearly affiliated with a candidate, the DNC and elected official leaders should endorse against the candidate affiliated with the super PAC. Let's not take corporate PAC money in the DNC. That's just getting back to what we had in 2008 under Obama when he ran, saying, I'm not going to take PAC money or lobby spending. Let's get behind the Maine initiative.
I didn't know
passed
that.
in Maine 70%
That's wild.
regulating the amount people can give to super PAC. So you couldn't get Elon Musk or Bill Gates giving $50 million to a super PAC. You could only give $3,300. That passed with 70% of the vote. Why isn't the Democratic Party saying we're going to have a 50-state strategy? We're going to run the Maine ballot initiative in every state. You know, we're going
I'll
to
answer
run.
that question.
Well, they make a lot
I
of
don't
money.
think,
They
because
get
there's a lot of people.
There's a lot of
I
super
mean,
PAC money on the Democratic side.
Yeah.
That's why, like, I get a little bummed out when people talk about the meaning of the word progressive. Our nation is defined by winning. That's what matters most to this country, whether you like it or not. That's what defines our history, defines our culture, defines our competitive economic system.
Yes.
Is winning. So the word progressive goes to the best winner in the history of that ideology, and that would, of course, be FDR. So the whole argument of, well, do you mean a Teddy Roosevelt progressive, or do you mean a Henry Wallace progressive? You know, it's like, well, yes, I do mean a Henry Wallace progressive, but it's a bullshit talking point that that word has tremendous value, and what I like, he was just talking about was harnessing the anger of the populace, and I need a male AOC to do that too. We need to start building a team, right? We got the nerdy West Coaster that's nice and approachable in Ro Khanna. He's talking about he's not going to be the guy. He's always going to be the support guy.
Yeah.
He's always going to be supporting cast.
Oh, of
AOC,
course.
AOC, now there's a leading lady. Now she needs a leading man. We need like a leading man here to step up and be a strong progressive voice, not to be overly sexist about it. It doesn't have to be, by the way, it doesn't have to be a white guy. I don't care. But I need a strong man here for the progressive voice to have a chance.
Yeah.
Like it's just, it doesn't matter what color, size, shape man it is, as long as he's got a good, deep voice that can
More.
actually, because that's what I'm saying is about white privilege. Like, there's male privilege. Men are allowed to get pissed off and still be taken seriously to a certain extent.
Right.
The whiter the man, the more slack he's going to get in that social
Unfortunately,
context.
yeah.
Right. But still, a man is allowed to get pissed off, and it can come across as righteous. So it's like you want someone to have the ethos of anger. Is AOC going to be able to do that? Well, maybe for the women. But it's like me, I wake up every day wanting to beat the shit out of somebody because Trump is going to be president again.
Yeah, of
and
course.
I'm like, who's going to communicate my anger? And am I going to entrust it with AOC? Like, that's a start.
Yeah.
Like, there should be a team, right? Like the squad, like what the squad was
Right.
supposed to be. But instead of just women of color, it should be people of the same ideology. And who cares what their background is?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. That's what has been missing from a lot of, I guess, figures in politics, especially like actual politicians, actual elected representatives, or at least like pundits that are like big time cheerleaders for the Democratic Party and whatnot. There is just a sore lacking of this underlying anger in the electorate not being communicated. There's no one that's actually communicating the anger that ordinary people have, like the frustration and whatnot. Like Bernie Sanders is pretty much the only one when it comes to like big names and whatnot. And it could have made a huge difference because it's like we could be happy and joyful. It's just like, oh, we're the nice, caring, party that actually believes in progress and whatnot. But it's like that's not the attitude a lot of people who are struggling. A lot of people
Or
are
just
really,
a winner
really
in
fucking
general,
suffering.
or a
Yeah,
winner, or a
exactly.
fucking competitor.
Someone who fights. Yeah.
You want to kill something conceptually. You want to kill something conceptually that's going to add value, right? That whole cliche of addition by subtraction. Kill the concept of a happy warrior. Okay, we're not getting a female Obama anytime soon. We're not getting librarian Liz Warren up there embodying your anger for you. Not
No.
going to happen. Gavin Newsom, maybe. Gretchen Whitmer, maybe. Wes Moore, maybe. They have time to evolve, but evolve they must if they're going to be more than just neoliberal incremental corporate, capitulators.
Right.
That's what the DNC seems to be doing, is capitulating
Of course.
both the corporations and the
Yeah,
consumers.
that's right. A lot.
And as you know, Congressman, a lot of what the party selects for at this juncture is not necessarily political skill or aptitude or a vision. It's who can raise the dollars.
You're
That has
right.
become an important, maybe the central litmus test for aspiring Democratic candidates. So for people who've come up in that system, that's their primary skill. Are they going to be willing to go in this direction?
Well, if they want to win, they will. And it's not just a matter of winning. It's a matter of, can we actually govern, right? 70% of people in this country want fundamental economic transformation. Only 20% trust the federal government to do that. Why is that? Because they see politicians spending most of their time raising money. They see these elections being dominated by super PACs, and they don't think that people in
Go after Reagan here. You got to go after Reagan every time. You got to turn it on its head. Ready? Reagan said, government is not the solution to your problems. Government is the problem. Well, I'm telling you, as an educated and enlightened progressive Democrat who understands the socioeconomic system in which we all live, that government is not the problem. Conservative capitalism is the problem.
Bingo.
Conservatism itself is the problem. The word conservatism means resistant to change. Why should we be predisposed to resist change in a global economy that is defined by change? That's who makes the most money. Whoever invests ahead of everyone else. That's who makes the real money in this world, in case you didn't already know that.
Yeah, and it's especially disgusting when you consider conservative capitalism is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Reagan misdirected the entire conversation by saying that government was to blame for a lot of the issues. And sure, like there are definitely there's some blame to be had in the government and whatnot. But at the time, it was to steer away from the fact that he was bought out by corporations and was doing their bidding the whole time. He had a lot of he was working for Wall Street, and it's basically been how the White House and whatnot and Congress and the Senate operates since then. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy because if conservatives are in power, if Republicans are in power, they deregulate the entire government, make it worse and worse, so it functions worse and worse, and then they turn around and say, hey, government doesn't work. Yeah, because the regulation stripped away, and not to mention the taxes have been cut, so there's less and less funding that goes into the government, and all of a sudden, wow, we got ballooning debt.
Right. Told you it was a problem.
Yeah.
Told you it was a problem. They can just point to, of course, government's going to have problems. It's always going to have problems. So if you want to say the government is dysfunctional, all you have to do is point to any given problem and say, oh, look, the government isn't perfect. And the examples that I use are, do you really want private law enforcement? Do you really want private fire departments? Do you want private post office? A lot of
private
things in
airport
society,
security.
you can win on that fundamental question. He just said 70% of Americans want transformational change. 70%. By the way, the same number of people want Medicare for all. Okay?
Yeah.
So there's a common denominator here. So the way you can get fundamental change, or the way you talk about how government isn't the problem, it's well, you trust the government in our military, right? Always the highest polling part of our society is the U.S. military. Well, it also just happens to be the best financed part of our government.
Bingo.
In terms of discretionary spending. So when you invest in something.
Yeah.
And by the way, the military can't account for something like $3 trillion or something in a recent audit, some
Like-
absurd number.
Yeah, like trillions over time.
It's in the
like,
trillions.
Yeah, of course. It's like,
No, that was, and you can create, I'm going to give away the farm here with this idea, but there's a way to create incentive programs within the ranks of the military for ways to save the military money. And you could say, if you come up with a good idea that helps save the military money, then you get an extra week of vacation or something like that. Like, it's easy. But because the point is that the people who are operating on the ground, for example, ammunition, like I know of a common practice of, well, I want to make sure I get as much ammunition as I got last year, so I'm going to blitz through all the ammunition I have left so that I get a repopulation of what I got last year. And that just doesn't need to happen. Someone should be able to write a letter confidentially to a power that be and be like, yo, my CO is wasting money. And here's, and then, the CO doesn't get reprimanded or whatever. He was just doing what he was doing. But the point is that, there are ways to use the informed status of the common soldier. There's a lot of waste in our military, just like there's a lot of waste in healthcare. There's a ton of waste in healthcare.
Yeah, regardless, like all the like anti-government crusaders and whatnot that are just abundant on the right and whatnot, like the conservative capitalists and everything. It's like, shouldn't you want government to be like the most efficient it can be? It's like,
Right.
What entity, what private entity finances more things than the government? Which entity has more contracts that it dishes out for various projects or subsidies or whatever, you should want that entity to be efficient. And so like cutting tax revenue by giving the ultra wealthy a tax cut, how exactly does that benefit society as a whole?
Right.
And not to mention, if you're not making things better for the working class in general, they're going to be more reliant on the government. And if you're just making government worse, if you're cutting the programs that people rely on, it's like, what exactly are you seeking to improve? And we know the answer. It's your pocketbooks, it's your profits, it's your donors.
Yep. I will finish this
in
up.
the government and Congress have a vision looking out for them. So if our party doesn't reform these basic things, we're never going to earn the trust of the American people to actually get our agenda through. And you're absolutely right, though, but the first question when someone's running for Congress that people ask is how much can they raise?
Yeah, I know. I ran for Congress. That was the first question I got.
It's probably got worse since then, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now it's how much can you raise and who are your key super PAC allies? Not what is your platform? Are you for increasing the minimum wage? Where do you stand on Medicare? What do you think are the big issues? I mean, those are the issues that matter to voters. But we're just selecting a terrible criteria in what it takes to get to elective office.
Yeah, which means that you're going to end up primarily with people who come from wealth or are connected to wealth, and it creates very little class diversity in the Congress.
Absolutely. What is the Democratic theory that you're
When
thinking about
when the AOC got into office, that was like one of the first things that she pointed out to people. It's like, when you get elected, the first thing they have you do is start making phone calls, start seeing how much money you can fundraise. That's all it is. It's just basically a fundraising machine, the DNC and whatnot. Once you get into the office, like as an actual representative, your goal isn't to legislate or come up with legislation as much as it is to see how many political action committees you can get to donate to your campaign or to the Democratic Party as a whole. It is disgusting. It is literally
pathetic.
just like, it's just a gigantic money laundering scheme.
Yeah.
Like what comes down to it.
Yep.
Yeah.
to
Rokon
act
is
under the
totally
Trump
right.
administration. So the first time around, the theory was Trump is an illegitimate president. We're just going to treat him as like resistance, etc. Kind of worked 2020. This time around, it's a different popular vote mandate. This is just general exhaustion with a lot of this. So what are the fights inside? Like, what are the fights that you're going to pick with Donald Trump and the incoming administration to position yourself, not you yourself, but the party, for 26 and for 28?
Well, there are two different schools of thoughts. One is we've got to revitalize the resistance. There are some people who say, look, we've got to resist more, we've got to resist stronger. And the other school of thought is we've got to focus more on what we need to do, how the Democrats are going to govern, what we are going to do on economic issues, on different issues around the country. I'm in the second camp. That doesn't mean you don't push back. I mean, Trump is invariably going to betray certain promises. I think the time to push back is with specifics. Why aren't you raising the minimum wage? Why are you giving corporate tax cuts to have more offshoring of jobs when they have the tax bill? Are you really going to give these tax cuts to the very, very wealthy? But if we just say blanket resistance, we're not going to connect with people on actual things that affect their lives.
Yeah.
Congressman, you were one of the first, I think, politicians to, of course, condemn murder of Brian Thompson, the healthcare CEO, but also say, there's a reason why people are reacting the way they are and why they are so disgusted with the health care, if you can call it that, system that we have. Obviously, we don't have the majorities for Medicare for all, though what you and I would both like to see as the system in this country. But are there areas where you think that we could, bite off some chunk of improvement in the healthcare system that would make it less cruel, fewer bankruptcies, and less deadly?
Well, you can have two different thoughts simultaneously. Murder is unconditionally wrong, and the healthcare system is irretrievably broken.
Yeah.
And those are both what we're seeing happening. I'll just give you one statistic. If you have cancer, and many people know someone who's had cancer, the average 42% of cancer patients within 2 years have lost their entire life savings.
Oh.
And so many people have denial after denial. And you know what they do? Many times they just don't take the medicine or they don't get the procedure. So one of the simple things we can do is to say, if a doctor prescribes a medicine, and if Medicare would cover it, then the private insurance company should cover it. But just on the front page today of the New York Times is the corruption of the system. If you look at it, it says that private insurance companies colluded with PBMs to basically get Americans addicted to OxyContin. And they were paying PBMs to say, fill more of the OxyContin prescriptions. It is a corrupt system. And all you have to do is look at the front page of the New York Times. Medicare for all
it's
is the
almost
answer.
like
I'm tired of people saying
it's
not
almost like
possible.
the opioid epidemic, the mass addiction across this country is fabricated by these private entities and whatnot. It's like it gets them to sell more of these fucking drugs, right? It's like, oh my God, it's so disgusting.
If there is ever a moment that we should be pushing that, it is right now.
But how do you square that with what you just said? Only 20% of people say the federal government can solve their problems. How are you going to convince them that?
Well, Medicare is one of the places where people do like, right? I mean, and so
they like when they pay their bills, but they don't like when being told what to do, or rationing care, et cetera. Right?
Well, Medicare doesn't cover ration the care. I mean, I think there's certain things when it comes to job creation, creating high-paying jobs. I do think we need to have a whole of society approach. You need to get business leaders. You need to get technology leaders. You need labor. One of the great things about FDR is he was basically a conductor. He had all the talent, and the politician was just saying, okay, I'm going to mobilize that. But when it comes to Medicare for all, for public health, for people's health care, I think people realize that shouldn't have a for-profit motive, that having Medicare pay for it, the coverage makes sense. And then you can have your private doctor. You can have your private nurses. You can have your private hospitals. It's important to let people know that those are going to be private. Many people don't even know Medicare is a federal program. And they'll say, yeah, I like Medicare, but I don't like the federal government at the same time.
Right,
God.
God.
That's a great point.
Right,
Congressman, we always appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming.
I love Ro. He's just the man.
Yeah,
he's a nice guy.
Yeah,
he's proof though
really
that he's not the guy. Like, I wish a lot of the left want a nice guy like that to be our next great FDR. It's not going to be like that. It's not going to be like that. He's going to have to be it. Steve Jobs was an asshole. Michael Jordan was an asshole. I have no doubt that Tom Brady, to a lot of people, was an asshole. Like, these are competitors, and we need competitors in office, especially when you can't get reelected 4 times like FDR was. We'll never see another FDR for that simple reason.
Yeah.
Because they changed. They were like, oh, my God, this system actually works. We better make sure we don't have continuity. Otherwise, the word will get out that equality is possible, at least equal opportunity. I'm not necessarily for like a utopia where everybody has the same amount as everybody else. I think if you work harder, you deserve to be compensated fairly for that. But it's not a meritocracy. Like we've talked about with those simple questions that you can ask your friends and family. Number one is probably, do you think America is a meritocracy? And if that person says yes, then just bring in the MAGA set of expectations. If you're dealing with someone that thinks America is a meritocracy, first of all, they're in the minority. I bet I haven't seen polls with that question, but I'm pretty sure now, after everything that's happened in the last even just 10 years with wealth inequality, like millennials, no millennial is going to tell you that America is a meritocracy.
No.
I mean,
not
that
at
I know
all.
anyway.
No, of course, yeah. Um,
But we're not. They didn't really address the DNC personnel changes outside of just
Not too
AOC.
much.
This is what I'm talking about. Like change the culture. And I used to not really understand this term of the culture of this, the culture of that, the culture of winning. Okay, like let's talk about what is the culture of winning. Roe is like. Well, I think that has to take place along generational lines. There needs to be
Yeah.
huge seismic changes in generational leadership.
yeah.
And he's not saying that because maybe he just doesn't
Well,
thought of it, you know?
he understands the implications. Like I'm sure he has. I'm sure he definitely does have a stake in who heads the DNC because it does have a lot of implications and whatnot. And he probably just doesn't want to reveal his hand too much because that can probably be used against him. But I'm sure that if you actually asked him, he'd be like, "Oh yeah, we definitely need." Someone who's a lot more friendlier to progressives and progressive causes, let alone the issues that uh, ordinary Americans are uh, focused on the most. You know, that have major impacts in their lives that we've just been neglecting to address as a party. I wouldn't doubt that at all.
Yeah. So maybe we should finish up with a little Luigi Mangione news.
Yeah.
So this is going to be
course.
fun to see him stand trial. There's going to be protests up the wazoo, I'm sure, when it actually happens. I think a campaign issue 4 years from now will be pardon Luigi.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with him, but it's I don't condone murder in cold blood like what he did, but he made a point, and people hurt him, and there's a reason why. People always hate on social media. People hate on the internet, and I say it's actually a beautiful thing because it has allowed us to see the ugliness inside of maybe most people, but because until we deal with that ugliness, until we deal with this otherizing, these scapegoat politics, until we address, that's the engine of the culture war, is the division, right? Well, until
Yeah.
someone stands up and says that this is why we are being divided and here's how we are being divided, then it's going to stay divided. And unfortunately, our side, as we talked about at the beginning of the show, is also divided.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah, and
The last thing
you
we
see
need.
the lack of leadership. So I think it's going to be a while, man. I think we're going to be on this show for another 2 to 4. We're going to be doing this for another 2 to 4 years before we have someone like Bernie come along.
Sure. Yeah. So there's actually a poll conducted by Center for Strategic Politics, and it basically asked people. I guess the sample size was 455. If I'm reading this correctly, it basically asked, "Do you think this killing was justifiable?" And 12% of people basically said yes. The reaction was positive. 73% said no. The reaction was negative. Now, what the poll doesn't really say is like, yeah, I mean this killing, it wasn't exact. I wouldn't go about it that way. But it's kind of like a common sentiment, especially if you ask anybody who's been just screwed by the healthcare system. It's like murder is unconditionally wrong, but I don't have any sympathy for the guy. I understand why Luigi did it. If Luigi did it, we'll find out in the trial and whatnot. If this is the guy,
Yeah, the way you
whatnot.
ask a question is incredibly important. That's why we
Yeah.
talk about the way that the conservatives ask questions. There's a conclusion built into the question itself. Like, so how come when college kids get out of school, they're making less money than they have in the past? Is college really worth it? It's like, well, you're just assuming that the purpose of college is to go out and make money.
Right.
So it's already built into the question, you see? So
Exactly.
when they're
Exactly.
asking these questions like you're talking about, they're already trying to steer the answer toward, yeah, murder is bad.
Yes.
Whereas it was wrong under our law, but this is vigilante justice. What the CEO
Right.
was doing was absolutely wrong.
Yeah,
I
like
mean,
if
this
if
healthcare
what
industry is exploitive. I
no,
mean,
of
32%.
course.
Like he picked him for a reason. And it's because United Healthcare is the worst. They had the
Yes.
highest denial rate. He made a point. Like, he made his point. And I think it would be unwise for the powers that be to not pay attention and to do something about it.
When it comes to that figure too, a whole lot of a big contributing factor to that was the fact that United Health actually had an algorithm, like an AI algorithm, that would automatically deny claims. Like, I think 90% of the time, I think the rate is actually that insane. So,
it shows you that's because they of all the assumptions that they put in to the AI, so they steered it towards there. It's like the human error is obvious in that AI formula. Whatever they put into that formula was steered towards denial of the claim.
No, of course,
because they have an economic incentive for them to deny claims.
Bingo.
The for-profit motive. It's so stupid.
Yeah,
it's so dumb. It's downright dumb. How are you going to pay for it? How can we not do it?
Yeah.
Like, this is outrageous. We're spending. I'm about to drop $2,000 a month for me and my wife. $2,000 a month because there's no competition for individual insurance in California, other than covered California, which I can't get.
I think that there's some sort of like there's an insane little factoid about I might have talked about this in the previous stream, but I guess for all the people who were denied coverage for their cancer treatment, or people had to shill out money for cancer treatments in America, I think it was in 2019, ended up amounting to something like $16 billion across the nation. Whereas, I think that same year, United Health brought in $33 billion in profits. So that means they would have been able to fucking cover all those cancer treatment costs and still have $17 billion in profit.
Yeah.
Fucking insane.
It's exploitive. No, when I was a management consultant my first year out of college, part of the reason why I left was because I was just working for pharmaceutical and healthcare companies, and I'm like, this is what I'm doing with my education. Like, this is why I worked as hard as I did in college this is why I'm going to end up going to Harvard Business School so I can help somebody make an extra 10 cents on a pill. Like, fuck that. Fuck that, dude. Like, I was never going to do that. I mean, and that we need politicians like that who don't give a fuck about money or fame unless it's there to facilitate their agenda. Yeah. But we can't, we got to get the left to agree on like 10 things, right? Because we got 10 fingers. And then we just say, these are the things. Everything else is extraneous. Yes. Okay? Yes. These 10 things, and if you don't agree with these 10 things, then you're not part of the coalition. And maybe it's only 5. We should discuss that. I've been working on that episode for a while, but like is this always the case with me? I'm always working on things for too long. But I think that's a good place for. I don't really have anything else for today. We got generational change coming on Thursday, which is really exciting. Yeah,
looking forward to that. I will say I do think that this Luigi Mangione trial is going to be the most watched trial, probably since the OJ trial. There's going to be a lot of attention on this, and the media, the establishment, whatnot, they are very, very uncomfortable with how popular this guy is. It's because his actions, they just spoke to so many people that were like, because if what he did was murder, then what the CEO did was murder as well. By having policies in place to deny as much coverage as possible to maximize profits, leading people to suffer, go into debt, or fucking die, that should be murder as well. But because you're not pulling the trigger, as a lot of people have said, it just doesn't count. It's business,
right?
But that's pretty much it for me as well. I am looking forward to speaking with Generational Change on Thursday. It's gonna be a good show.
Yeah, they're great, and Pete and Jen are gonna have plenty. We'll definitely put some work into what we're going to talk about with them. Obviously, probably the major themes of generational change, ironically enough, at the DNC. And we'll get more into specifics. Maybe I'll come up with these 10 things that I think we should all agree on. That would be a good place to bounce that idea off of her.
Yeah.
Since that's a work in progress. All right. Well, for Stat Pat Stateless Patriot, I am Dieter McBusiness, America's WASP, reminding you that you don't get change in America by asking nicely. Thanks very much, y'all. We will see you Thursday night around 7:30 Pacific.
Hell yeah. See you
Until
guys. Have a good one.